Yes, they do.
All right, we're on live stream now. So.
Where is everybody?
Oh.
You should. I missed the whole story.
There are some folks who are on their way. Gabby was here, then she went somewhere. She'll still be back, probably because she wanted to be here with me because she knew I smelled. What? I'm just kidding. No.
She just said. She said at 6:04 that she spoke the gospel with a woman from Mexico in the park.
Yeah. She told me she's gonna meet with her again, like on Tuesday or something, or on Thursday.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what about. Your phone is huge.
Hmm. Why isn't this working?
See, women do not have clothing. See, burden. Well, sorry that I care about this.
Your spine's already broken, don't worry about it.
Well, it's already broken, so I am worried about it. Oh my gosh. These guys, no, I was not broken spine.
I thought you had scoliosis.
No, I thought I had scoliosis. I was misdiagnosed.
Well, that's good.
What?
What?
Gabby said she's at the church. She's not in the bathroom. The lights are off. She's
No, the women's bathroom is broken. Please do not go in there. Don't go in there. Don't use it. Don't use the water fountains because they will make everything overflow and stink up everything. Yeah.
But the men's one's okay.
The men's one is fine. Yeah.
The guy who was working on our internet outside on the line out there,
Yeah.
he was like, I was like leaving, and he was like, "Do you live here?" And I was like, "I do live here, yes." And he goes, "You have internet and phone?" I'm like, "Well, we have internet." He goes, "Okay, well, you're not gonna have internet for a little bit because I'm gonna change over the line." I was like, "Well, that's okay because I'm leaving, so I don't need it."
It's fine. Why isn't this?
Also, I asked for a limeade. I don't know what this is. It's not a limeade.
Yeah.
And I think that's a large. And I asked for a medium. And the girl at the Wendy's drive-thru, I don't know if she was brand new or what, but she was having a real hard time. Because I was like, instead of the cheddar jack cheese, could I have cheddar? She was
Yeah.
like, it doesn't come with cheese. Really? Because it says that it comes with cheese. No, it only comes with, oh, you're right. It does come with cheese.
That's funny.
You want extra cheese? No. I would like different cheese. And I would not like tomatoes. It doesn't come with tomatoes. Really? Because it says it comes with tomatoes. Oh, it does come with tomatoes. All right.
Okay. Why is this not working?
That place had like 7 different owners inside that.
Hmm.
It's ridiculous.
It's gone back and forth with the same winner a lot of times.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Next time he leases it and gives it back or what?
I don't know.
I saw a food truck, $10,000.
I saw that, it was a trailer.
I know, I want to
When are you gonna get a food truck,
I
Jamie?
want to. No, you buy. Isn't that attachment with the truck? No, it's just a.
No, it's a trailer, you can hook it up to something and pull it. Well,
That would be hilarious.
you could always sell your, whatever your car is, and get a big boy car.
trying to figure out why its email's not going through
Well,
for this link.
we'll be praying.
Thanks, man.
So what did you do? Besides stitching?
¿Vas a iglesia ayer?
Jerk face. And then you eat my candy. Oh, that is so sweet of you.
So Ron, you give the yellow one.
No. Sour as
¿Los puedan?
¿Cómo está todo con tu carro?
Ok.
Sí.
Es un parte y necesito una nueva, pero necesito...
They are.
¿Se escucha?
necesito un parte nuevo, pero necesito... ¿cómo se dice? Ordenar en el internet.
Sí.
Necesito esperar para eso.
¿Y en qué carro estás?
¿Qué?
¿En qué carro estás?
Ahora uso el carro de Dustin.
¿Eh?
They are.
Es mi carro viejo.
We're talking about you in cars.
Que
Something about
que
you're
tengo
gonna help fix
antes
cars.
de este. Pero está bien. Pienso que solo una semana necesito esperar para su parte.
No, I think she said
But
that
you
it's-
are good?
Sí. Sí.
I hate that when you order McDonald's.
Estoy cansada.
Yeah, I can imagine. Me too.
Actually,
Dormí
it's
hasta
large at Wendy's.
1:30.
Yeah, it's
En el
like 32
cargo.
ounce, and that, I feel like that's like a 28
I
ounce.
will never back to Japan.
She doesn't like camping.
She hates camping so
That's
much.
because she's never gone in an RV.
That's
Okay.
not
I know, but it makes boat camping more fun.
Yeah, RV is not. That's not camping. Okay. All right. Finally got the link to go.
Did you say that to Jen?
Sorry.
Did you say
No.
that to Jen?
But I will in the perfect moment.
Okay.
I will.
Hello.
All right.
And I have some eggs for you in the refrigerator. Duck eggs from Sarah.
Thank you.
Eggs.
And I forgot the eggs, and I'm really sorry. Oh wait, you just
I
said you
brought
brought them.
them,
I'm so
yes.
sorry.
It's okay.
I
Matt.
can't think.
We'll work on your listening skills.
I don't know.
It's when you in the middle. He was at the edge.
Hi there. I'm Brooke.
I'm
Nice to meet you.
I'm Gabby. Nice to meet you. Gabby. Yeah, Gabby. I'm from Ecuador. For that is my weird name.
Gabby is not a weird
Gabby's not a weird name.
You're from where?
Gabriela.
Gabriela.
She's from
She's
Ecuador.
from Ecuador.
Yeah.
From Quito. One of the largest cities in the world.
Wait,
Okay.
Wait, let me say. Un buen día. Un buen día. Yeah.
She knows more Spanish than me. That's great. All right, guys. Took me like 10 minutes to try and figure out this link to send it, so I apologize for people on watching live stream here. I don't know what I'm doing. So we'll go ahead and get started here. This is session 5 for Aaron and Ellie. Brief recap of what's going on. I would have someone else do it in the class, but then no one on the live stream would be able to hear you. So briefly, what has been happening, even for those of you who have maybe missed some of it, Aaron has been diagnosed as bipolar 1. Went on a major shopping spree, spent $10,000,
50.
$15,000, yeah, a lot of money. His wife Ellie is concerned that he's going to do that again. And session 3, he didn't take his meds, and he was trying to sell. The like, yeah, natural like pure light to the counselor, and it was hilarious. And it was going kind of crazy. Session 4, a little more calmed down. He understood he needs to be taking medication in addition to some counseling stuff. One of the major things we looked at last week was the counselor really looked at, these are trials, and regardless of any sort of medical issue, you are personally responsible for any sort of sin that happens. It's not your medication, it's not your physical trial or problem. there's the cause of sin. It just helps to bring things out of the heart, right? And so that's what he really dealt with last week. He talked about forgiveness. He had them do some stuff in those regards. And so now we are on session 5. Sorry, I forgot where session we're on. Session 5. And so that's where we're at now. This is the last one that we see from this couple. There's only, I know, I miss them too. Again, these are fake. They're not real. They're making these up. The counselor doesn't know what they're going to do. He has no idea what they're going to say. They have some sort of script, the counselees, but even in the sessions, they're just making kind of things up, knowing their end goal, their end outcome, and so on, just for our purposes to know how is the counselor going to deal with certain issues. Okay, we'll watch this one, and then we'll talk about it in between at some points, and then we will start another series. It's a 3-part. It's unfortunately a 3-part series, looking at how to counsel some sexual sin in a marriage. It's very, very crucial, and don't worry, it's not like obscene.
It's within a marriage?
Look at my phone's doing that. I don't know what it is.
What? Weird. Thankfully, they didn't do that during my sermon last night.
Matt, you said it's within a marriage?
Yeah, within a marriage. Okay? So let's go ahead and we'll play this while Dustin's music plays.
That was the weirdest thing I've ever happened on my phone.
Don't worry, it's not like
So good.
Okay, hold on. I had the YouTube channel up on my computer, so you could hear ourselves. That was funny.
That was funny.
AA Ron, yeah.
Well, to start the session, Ellie, would you pray for us, please?
Oh.
Lord, I just thank you for this time together with Charlie and with Aaron, and just being able to hear more about how you teach us about things in your word. I thank you for the grace that you've given us just to kind of keep walking even when it gets hard. And thank you that you're with us. Amen.
Amen. Well, we've covered a lot of information in the past few weeks, haven't we?
Yeah.
We've talked about anger. Have you been using the tools that we've given you to deal with anger?
Yeah, I mean, it's been hard, but I think when I stop and kind of think about it, like, what is it that I'm wanting that I'm not getting? I feel like even just being able to, like, stop and acknowledge that has been really big. To think, like, okay, what am I wanting? I'm wanting things fixed. I'm wanting my money problems gone. I'm wanting control. I'm wanting this. I'm wanting that. But then just kind of, like, stopping, like, thinking about it, and then just, like, in those moments, like, asking the Lord to, like, help me, and just, like, even just, like, helping me give that over to him, which I haven't sometimes, you know, like, it's, like, really hard. I feel like it's, like, I gotta keep doing it every day, all the time, because I just feel like anger is pretty deep-seated in there. I'm gonna have to keep doing that a lot.
You should keep using the tools that we gave you and applying them whenever you encounter things that make you angry. How about worry? How have you been doing with worry? We talked about that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's along the same thing, the same lines. Like, I feel like I'm able to trust the Lord more with the anxiety about the future and what the future is going to look like, or even in the day-to-day present. I'm thankful for the tools that we did talk about. That was really helpful, and just being able to stop and just, like, recognize my own pride in those moments.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's good. We talked about money matters and gave you some information about that. How has that been going, Aaron?
I think it's been going a lot better. I've definitely been a lot more on board, and I would say I've been pretty cooperative with
Yeah, he has
just
been more cooperative.
allowing her. We're running things by her and understanding why I'm doing it. So the reason is not, in my head, it's not thinking that Ellie's out to get me or to try to control me, that I don't have any freedom. And we've talked about that, and we're continuing to talk about it. But just understanding that it's more that we're on the same team, and trying to really tell that to myself and pray about it. And so it's been helping, for me to be more comfortable. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so like our two friends, one of them had just bought a dog, and it was like expensive, like Labradoodle, and he's like starting to breed it now and stuff, and so he's like making like a lot of money, and like $10,000 or something. And I came home and I was like, hey babe, we could do this, we could buy two, and then it would help us to, get out of debt faster and stuff. And after talking about it, she was like, no, I don't think that's the best thing, and here's the reasons why, and it's not a quick fix, it's going to take us some time, and this is what we can do. And so rather than get frustrated with her, it was like, oh, okay, like maybe that's not a good idea, and to trust my wife, and to talk about things together. So
Yeah, it felt good that he listened too, but just that he trusted me to be able to, that I'm not like coming down on him, but
yeah.
that we're like kind of talking through things a little bit quicker together, so that was helpful.
Well, that's good. We talked a good deal about asking for and giving forgiveness. I wondered how that's been going.
Yeah, we had a really good, I think I'd say break.
Okay, so what is he doing right now?
He's getting them to dialogue.
Okay, he's getting them to dialogue. And so obviously in between session 4 and now session 5, they've skipped some sessions that we haven't seen, right? Because you said we've covered issues of anger, we covered more anxiety. They didn't really cover that stuff in week 4. Session 4, they covered money a little bit. They covered forgiveness a lot. So now he's going to deal with that. So this is further down the road, weeks down the road. They've covered more issues on anger and anxiety with her, with Ellie, with Aaron. They're talking about more of the money issues and self-control stuff. And you see how they're interacting with each other right now. They're interacting a lot better than before. How are they interacting before?
Constant anger.
Well, especially Ellie. Yeah, a lot of hostility from Ellie towards her husband, for rightly so, making things more difficult. But now we're seeing some significant yet subtle changes, even with Aaron saying, I would be tempted normally to be angry about this decision she wanted to do with finances, but then I had to step back and think, maybe that is a good idea. And then she's saying, yeah, it was helpful that he was listening to me. Because before he was saying, well, I'm the man of the house, like I should be able to make these decisions. And then, it feels for him that, hey, I can't use the money that we have and those sort of things. So it's helpful to see him submitting one to another, as Ephesians says, we need to submit to each other. Right? In addition to what it says about wives submitting to your husbands, he needs to, at times, submit to his wife in regards to, especially the money stuff right now, because he's made some very unwise choices there. So, it's good.
Breakthrough in that. A couple sessions ago, went home and I started listing down all the things that I had done, and as I'm listing them down, they're just $15,000 here on credit cards, $10,000 on vacation, $30,000 for, investing with this guy that's not even my friend anymore. And understanding that, I started listing out what it was actually doing to Ellie, and just thinking about, okay, like how much pain that's caused, how much just hurt for her, and just realizing like that's not what I want to do. That's not like how I want to treat my wife, and how she's like working more and more overtime, trying to do so much more, trying to carry the burden, and then trying to help me get better. I started putting myself in her shoes and just thinking like, man, I feel like that's just so much for like one person, and the closest person to me. And so I listed those things out, and that really hurt, not only me, but I know for her. And we talked about them, and I asked for her forgiveness and said, hey, I'm sorry for doing this and for making you feel like this. And I just and then I just wanted to let her know that I loved her. And I think that we had a good time like through that. And then just, listing out all the other people, my boss who I called an idiot, and I mean, I don't have the job back, but at least I was able to write him a letter and apologize that way. And then my neighbor who I was yelling at also, and so it's been really alleviating. So.
Okay, so do you remember what the homework was last session in regards to forgiveness?
You had to write down a list of the things that he had done.
Okay, you had to write down a list of things he had done.
And ask forgiveness for them, because before he wasn't facing, like, he wasn't taking responsibility for his actions.
Yeah, be very specific with the issues, with the instances of sin. Very specific with the writing down a list of things he asked forgiveness for. So he's saying all these things I did, specific purchases with the credit card, specific things I said to my boss, I called my boss an idiot. His neighbor. Again, this is more than just AA of going back and trying to make amends. This isn't that. This is asking for forgiveness, saying, hey, I realize this is wrong. Please forgive me for. Being very, very specific for that result. And you can tell he's saying, like, man, this is really freeing. This is helpful for him to see. And for, not freeing in the sense of like he's empowered now, but it's freeing because he's obeying. He no longer has that guilt on his conscience anymore from that sin, because he's asking for forgiveness. It might not be granted. He can't control that. But he can ask for it and pray that his wife and neighbor and boss will grant that. It'll help help the relationship be reconciled.
Good.
I think it's definitely been a process for me. It hasn't been like a quick, like, oh, forgive him, great, that's great, done, move on. It's definitely been a process, and I have to keep reminding myself that when I told him I forgive him, like, the Lord's forgiven me, it's done, it's gone, and I can't keep bringing it up. It doesn't mean that, like, all our money problems are fixed. Like, I mean, we're still, like, working with the budget and sticking with it and moving forward, but it's, I don't know, I think this whole thing has been a process, and it's not just going to be all better in one day, like, I mean, sometimes that's hard because people come up and tell me, like, well, why don't you just try this, or why don't you just try that? Like, people are like, why don't you just try all these, like, essential oils, or why don't you just try, like, I don't know, all these multivitamins, or eat organic food, and maybe Aaron will be all better. And I'm like, those are great things, but it's not going to, like, be a quick fix. I think that's what I'm learning. Like, this is not, like, a quick fix. I would like there to be a quick fix. I would like there to be a magic pill. I mean, at least Aaron's staying on his meds, which is good. But it's still not a magic pill. It's not dealing with, like, what's going on inside of him.
You're good. That's a huge difference from last time, or really from the first 4 sessions. she was very frustrated about this, really hated the trial, really wanted to get out of the trial, and now she's understanding that change is not instantaneous. So that's I mean, when you get somebody to that point in the middle of something very difficult like this, it's huge, it's key. It's very key for their growth, for their change, and you want that. And you might think, well, yeah, I know, everyone should know that. The change is not instantaneous. Well, yeah, we may know that, but in the middle of the trial, we don't think logically like that. We don't think that way in the moment. That's a crucial point, really a crucial breakthrough. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's been difficult. I think that's been the difficult part, is like dealing with how people like respond to us and don't really understand like the depths of what we're going through. I mean, Chantel and Dante have been like really helpful and have been like walking through us in that and kind of helping us understand that.
Is
Now-
that their couple friends?
Yeah, so last session he said you need to find a couple in your church, ask your pastor, find a couple in church to mentor you, to disciple you through this process, somebody who's more mature, been married for more than a couple years, to help you through this. You're newlyweds, find someone who's not newlyweds, who've had kids, who've been through this. And so that's who they're mentioning here.
Like the world is not our enemy in this, but
You
they've been-
meet with them every week?
yeah.
They've
hmm
been really supportive.
Yeah, that was good advice you gave. So that's been good, but it's just, that still is difficult. People don't really understand mental illness, and they just like, they think, you know, Aaron's like all better, or like, they don't really,
Or that you're not doing a good enough job, or that
yeah.
you're, I think
Like
it's-
even your parents, like,
yeah.
I mean, tell them about that a
My
little.
parents, just with my my illness and stuff, my parents, I think it's like an Asian thing, because they just don't like to talk about it really.
JB, is that
So they
true?
just don't like to talk about it, and so when, you know, Ellie can feel overwhelmed and ask for help or certain things, and they treat her as if she's the problem.
Yeah.
So that's been, you know,
I mean, I think it's kind of like about like saving face. Like you can't really like,
yeah.
you just don't talk about the problem. Don't just ignore it.
Well, tell me, how would we push that back through 2 Corinthians 5:9? Remember, we have always said in counseling that we're not problem-oriented, we're goal-oriented. But that if we're working towards the goal, that we'd be able to deal with the problems as they come up. So, what is the primary goal that we have?
To glorify God.
And you remember the sentence?
More than the air that we breathe.
I want to glorify God more than I want to breathe. So how do we fit parents and friends who say things that are hurtful or they hope would be helpful, but that really isn't helpful?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just like don't get it.
Well, truth of the matter is they don't. They care about you though. I mean, you know, they'll see something on the internet or on late night television and they'll think of you, and you know, it's their burning mission from that point forward to get to you, to tell you about the new solution for all your troubles.
Right.
And they mean well, even if it doesn't come out well. So, but let's take and push that back into 2 Corinthians 5:9. What should be our goal in dealing with these individuals? What's the outcome supposed to be?
Loving God well, loving our family, friends well, and our neighbor.
All right, so you want to glorify God in all your interactions with other people, don't you?
Yeah.
So, and if we're going to glorify God, we have to love God with all our heart, soul, and mind in the situation. And then we have to love our neighbor, don't we? Even love our neighbor more than,
Yourself.
yeah, doesn't tell us to love ourselves, does it? people who misinterpret that verse in Matthew to mean that you have to be able to love yourself before you love others don't read Greek. Anybody that does fully knows that what the problem is actually is that we love ourselves. You know, the biggest issue with regard to what those people say is how it hurts you, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I wish I could just like educate everyone about it. Like, this is actually what's going on. It's actually a medical thing. Like, we kind of tried to do that with your parents, but even then it was like...
And in the process, so, you know, I think you're onto something good there, but in the process, we have to love them, don't we?
I mean, like, what does that look like?
Well, loving in the Bible is defined as what? If you look at John 3:16, how is love defined?
God died.
Giving yourself over.
It says, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. So actually loving people is giving of yourself, giving of your time. That's what the absolute definition of it is. If you love your kids, you give them your time. So what of yourself can you give to them that would be a benefit to them?
I mean, maybe time in that sense with those people would actually, maybe rather than like expecting that they understand right away, just like explaining more. But I mean, I don't have to be like mean about it, but maybe explaining more and taking the time to like, I mean, maybe that is love.
Well, maybe, yeah, maybe, because they like going out, and they like going out, like to a restaurant. We could take them
Your
out to a
parents?
restaurant. Yeah,
Yeah.
and maybe talk to
friends
them.
too, but
Oh,
yeah, your parents.
Doing it on their level or something, or
Yeah.
doing something for them while we...
First thing you can do for people that have wounded you is to pray for them. I always find when people are after me that, and I know it, that I pray for them, because I find it's next to impossible to hate people that you're praying for.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to love them, and I have to abide by what the scripture tells me to do with regard to them. You know, that was the third part of motive. He who keeps my commandments, he who has my commandments and keeps them, he's the one who loves me. And remember when we talked about how to solve problems in a few sessions ago about Matthew 18? And what did Jesus tell us when we had someone who had wronged us? What were we supposed to do?
Go to that person.
And in what context? How were we supposed to go to them? Yes, we were supposed to go to them privately. So we have scriptural direction about what to do with all the people who are wandering around and saying things about you that are partially informed. You could go to them and say, I've heard that you've said this. And then just wait a minute and let them respond. And after they say whatever they want to say, then you could respond by saying, well, the truth of the matter is that Aaron has a medical problem, and it has really disrupted our lives at times. But right now, he's doing really very well compared to what he was doing maybe 6 months ago. And then you could ask them if they would pray for you. Pray for Aaron, who's looking for work. Could you pray for him to be able to get a full-time job? And that's how I would confront it.
Okay. Like tell them a little bit about the medical condition and then ask them to pray for us, just so they know too.
Yes. I think the more people know, the better it is for both you and for Aaron in the long run. We talked about that. That was why we encouraged you to get into a small group. That's been going well for you.
It's been going well.
Mm-hmm.
And also enlisted the help of your pastor, if I remember right.
Yeah.
And he's been a help to you. Well, that's good. Well, you had some concerns about your situation, I think, from last week. Something about how you were interacting in your roles in marriage.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still the one that's primarily working full-time, kind of working a lot, doing a lot, still kind of doing a lot of the stuff, and I know that's been hard for Aaron,
Yeah, I mean, there's an opportunity for me to actually work more, because I'm working now, found another job, so I'm working full-time, but it's really low pay, and there's an opportunity for me to switch to the night shift, so I've been really thinking about that.
To get more money.
Because I get more money, and that would really help the both of us, so I think that that's I think it's a good opportunity, but I'm just not too sure if that.
Now, why would he hesitate? Remember?
This is not supposed to be on the night shift.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be night
It's supposed
shift.
to be rhythm.
Yeah, because
So,
he needs to be on a rhythm, and so doing night shift stuff will throw him off, and would not be the best for him right now. Right? So, and that's why he's hesitant. Yeah, bro.
Oh, just another way that things are like so drastically different from the last, well, any of the sessions previous is that she was like, oh, I'm working a lot. I'm primarily being the one who's working. And I know that that's hard for Aaron. She
Yeah.
wasn't like, oh, my lights up, I'm working all the time, I'm doing everything. She acknowledged that, like,
Yeah.
as he is the man, like, it is hard for him that she's the one who's doing
Yeah.
all these things and
Good.
he wants to do more, and she's acknowledging
Yeah,
that.
she's understanding that. So, again, when we talk about roles of husband and wife, I mentioned in our class time, I mentioned counseling, that, the role of a husband, we can't think of it as primarily as the provider. He is the leader, and as the leader, he needs to provide as much as he can for his family. If he's physically able to, he needs to be doing that. But it does not mean at times where the wife maybe is the one who's carrying the family financially for a little bit, or the one primarily working for a time. I don't think it negates that biblical role. I think if that becomes the norm, then there might be some issues there. So I think that might be what she's somewhat concerned about. So I'll kind of see how Dr. Hodge deals with that.
That's the best thing for us right now, so I don't know, maybe that's.
Well, working nights for you is not a good idea. I'd keep looking for better work, on a daytime basis. But you have to keep in mind, as we talked about in an earlier session, that your body actually works well with the sunrise, sunset, daylight, dark cycle that God created and made us to work in. And your blood levels of hormones rise and fall in conjunction with the light and the dark. And when you stay up all night and work and sleep during the day, it affects that in a bad way. Particularly, it affects it for everybody badly. I used to take care of one fellow, and he was on a 7 to 7 shift, and every 2 weeks he would go from 7 to 7 days to 7 to 7 nights. The whole factory did that. It was a miracle that people just didn't get killed every 2 weeks because they would fall asleep, And it actually takes you 2 weeks to get used to the shift change, and about the time they get used to it, they change it. So I would really discourage you from doing that. Don't want to discourage you from continuing to look for better work, but I would discourage you from doing nights. Not good for folks who have bipolar disorder 1.
Okay.
I think it would be much better for you if you found and continued to work in day work. So you struggle a bit with your role and how the two interact, how you two interact as a result.
Yeah.
I had a good friend who taught me just a real simple pattern to look at the roles that a husband and wife ought to have. And most of it comes out of Ephesians chapter 5, if you want to look there. And he told me that each, both the husband and the wife had 3 distinct roles in Scripture. Now, there are obviously lots of different aspects to your relationship than just 3. This is simplification. But sometimes when you simplify things, at least you're doing the things that are important. Make sure you cover the important things. And When it comes to your role, Aaron, it comes in 3 words. It's the lover and the learner and the leader. Paul?
Where did he get that? Dr. John Street. Yep. Yeah, that's where he got it from. He's like, a good friend of mine told me this. Dr. Street told him that. And our marriage conference here last year, Dr. Street, last summer, was teaching us those things, and they're on our website. And a couple times, Dr. Hodges said, "Hey, go to this website here, ibcd.org, download these sermons on roles or on money or whatever." We have those resources too. You can go to our website. You can search for Dr. Street or Marriage Conference, and you can download the sermons or the messages on the roles of a husband, roles of a wife, communication, conflict, and those sort of things. Use those. Give those to people. Email those links to people who have listened to those. For marriage counseling, I want to promote that. To have those resources available to you guys.
Paul talks about it. If you look in Ephesians 5, and he starts in verse 25. Actually, it starts back up, but we'll come back to the part that's higher up. But let's just start at 21. And be subject to one another in the fear of Christ. That is always an important point. You know, if you want to start talking about the roles of a husband and wife, you have to keep in mind that both of you have a distinct role that is demanding, and sometimes that neither of you are going to want to do. But you were called by God, if you want to glorify God with your life more than you want to breathe, to submit yourself to that role, and that requires humility. Remember when we talked about the Amish for just a little bit, and I said that being humble wasn't wearing dark clothes and riding a buggy? Well, that's true, but the truth of the matter is there is humility in that. And the humility for them is that they submit themselves to that role. They make a choice sometime when they're about 16 years old, whether or not they're going to dress and live that way for the rest of their lives. And what you're watching when they do that is people who are willing to submit themselves to a defined role. That's what you have to be willing to do when it comes to marriage. You have to be willing to be the lover, learner, and leader of your wife. Now, skip down to verse 25, and it says, "Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself up for her." So when we said just a little bit earlier that loving was giving, you know what your job is as the lover of your wife is that you are supposed to be living in a sacrificial way for her. You know, husbands are supposed to love their wives in that very sacrificial way. Which is why you're supposed to, and are, why you have been and why you are working, and are supposed to seek to better what you do. It's also why, since you love your wife, you take your medicine, because you know that if you don't, there's going to be significant fallout on your wife, because you already know what the fallout's been and you know what it will be. So at that point you say, well, I'm going to love my wife in a sacrificial way. I'm going to do something I really don't want to do. Then, you know, the second part is to be a learner. You know, it's 1 Peter 3, where it says that you husbands in the same way live with your wives in an understanding way. With someone weaker, since she is a woman, that refers to physical differences in physical strength, certainly doesn't refer to intellect. And show her honor as a fellow heir of the grace of life, so that your prayers may not be hindered. That is your job. Learning what your wife likes, dislikes, her strengths and weaknesses, what would be good for her spiritually. And, you know, that's part of your job as a husband, to be a student of your wife. Then the last role that you have is to be a leader. And leadership in reality is getting out in front and making choices and decisions that benefit other people. You are tasked with making choices for your wife and eventually for your family that will be inconvenient for you and maybe lead you in directions that you don't want to go. I remember there was a time in my life when my I was getting out of the residency program, and my kids were in high school. One kid was in college, another kid was a junior, would become a senior. And I really thought about leaving the state and going to another state and teaching. But it would require me to pull my son out of the high school where he was going and was very used to him, and take him several states away and put him in another state. I thought about that a really long time, and I made a choice. I decided I wouldn't. And the reason why was, in spite of the fact that I thought it would be a great opportunity to do something that I really loved and wanted to do, that I fully believed it would have been to his disadvantage, terribly to his disadvantage. So I made a choice that was to my disadvantage for the benefit of my son. And that's what a husband is tasked to do. All right? So being a leader is not necessarily being in control of everything that goes on in the household. It's certainly not making all the decisions. I gave my wife the checkbook sometime when I was in my internship and said, this is yours. I don't have time to do it. And two, if I drop dead one day at work, you're going to need to know where everything is, and so it would be better if you handled that.
It's funny. As soon as we got married, Sarah took over all the stuff with the money, and I don't know how to do a budget, so you do it. Before we got married, my budget was on a piece of paper. It was like 5 items, like food, like $50 a week or a month or something like that. I ate Trader Joe's, like orange chicken and rice every day. And, it was ridiculous. She's looked at us like, "Are you kidding me? This is a budget?" I'm like, "Yeah, it works for me." Now, because of her, it's a little better. Interesting thing, too, what he said about his residency. After his residency, he had an opportunity to go teach. Great job, good career. Hey, let me go teach something as well as being a doctor. I can teach in a college, but it means my son has to be removed from his school, and that would be difficult. I think that's a wise move, and I think on his end, it's just teaching Aaron these sort of things. Like, look, leadership means sacrifice. It's difficult. You love your wife, you love your kids more than you love yourself. I know a guy. He may still be the women's basketball coach at Masters. Dan Waldeck, remember him, JB? So he lost one of his daughters died in, I think, 2006, 2007. What? 2007? Yeah, probably. It wasn't too. Yeah, it was right before we moved up here, or pretty soon. I was married. Sarah's pregnant. So yeah, it's 2007. And very, very difficult situation, obviously. And then shortly after, he got a really good job offer at a different Christian school to teach to coach the basketball team for a lot more money than what he's getting paid at Masters. And but he knew, look, obviously my daughter just died a couple months ago or 6 months ago or something. And so my other kids are having a really hard time with that, and they're really good friends with the youth pastor's daughter, who at the time was 8 or something, or not even that old, or maybe. And he said, if I move, that will be detrimental to my kids. It's like, there's no way I'm doing that. There's no way I can pull my kids away from these relationships right now because they've just lost their sister. Like, they can't lose this. And that really stuck with me a lot. And so hearing him say those sort of things, like, I think those are just moves of just a faithful, godly dad. I sacrifice myself for the sake of my kids. As difficult as it may be and whatever, he's just saying this is biblical leadership. I think it's wise. It's wise counsel.
Being a leader is like being the kind of person that can say, I can give up control of some things to my wife. I can consult her in making decisions, and it doesn't really mean that I'm any less of a man or any less of a leader. In fact, it means I'm a better leader. All right? So, that I think should help with your view of what being a leader is. So, Ellie, how is how has the way that you and Aaron have interacted about your roles as husband and wife been a struggle for you?
Well, honestly, it's been a pretty big struggle because, as you know, I've had to take on basically all the roles, you know, after the manic episode and then the hospitalization stuff. And I mean, doing stuff at home, you know, all the roles with that, even just car stuff and a lot of, you know, basic decision making. I've had to set up a lot of boundaries like we had talked about, just not letting him touch our financial accounts in the mail and just kind of a lot of logistics like that. So it's been hard because people have kind of looked at me like I was saying earlier, oh, you're wearing the pants in the family. Like kind of I'm having to make all the decisions for us. And to be honest, I don't really, I want to give some stuff back. I'm happy to get stuff off my plate. But I don't really know how much I can trust Aaron's decision making. Like, sometimes his notion of reality is a little bit off. I mean, even we're able to discuss the thing about the dog and trying to make 10,000 in a day. I mean, we're able to discuss that, but there's a lot of other small things and logistics that I'm not quite sure that I can.
There's a lot of things that I want to take on, and I know that that I need to take on, but I guess what's running through my head is how much should I take on right now, like, and how do we divvy that stuff up, or when do I feel like she's being controlling, and when should I be like, okay, this is part of the team thing, and so there's a lot of stuff that I want to do, I just don't know how much I actually can do right now, and it's not that I'm trying to shirk my responsibility, I'm just trying to figure out what's healthy for not only me, but also, you know, for the both of us.
Well, there are a number of things that Ellie said that you aren't doing that I think you could reasonably, physically, and emotionally deal with. How about if you went and did the grocery shopping?
I mean, that's good, but then that means you'd be purchasing something.
Well, that's right.
I mean, would I give him cash or I don't know. I don't know about cash, actually.
Well,
He's like, I don't want to do that.
he's going to need to be able to purchase it somehow, and if you are going to give away some task, it's going to require you to trust him.
I mean, I want to trust him and stuff, but I mean, maybe I could give him like a card with a set amount on it or something, and then graduate up to cash if he's able to do it.
Yeah, and I'd anticipate that he's going to be able to do it. What do you think, Aaron?
Yeah, I mean,
Good. What did he say, and why is that important?
I'd anticipate that he would be able to do that.
Yeah. Why would that be important to say that? You're setting him up for success. You're going to be able to do it. Now, again, this is way more than positive thinking. Hear me out with that. I'm not a positive thinker guy because that doesn't work. But what he's saying, look, you've grown a lot. You're going to be able to do this. You can, Ellie, you can really trust him. Fine, it's a good idea. Give him a card with a certain amount of limits. Great. But he's going to be able to handle this. It's not that big of a deal. You can go to the grocery store. Or even like, hey, give him a credit card and take it back when he comes home. It's fine. That's not very complicated. I understand her fears and her concerns. I can understand his concerns, like, I gotta do the shopping. Like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Reverse engineer talk of memory.
Yeah. It's. I think what he said is wise and helpful, even for her to be able to learn that, how to better even speak to her husband about some of these things.
I think that sounds good. I mean, my initial reaction is like, I feel like even her saying like graduate up to card is a little controlling and stuff, and I don't know. But,
Well, it's somebody who's actually looking out for your soul.
yeah,
I mean, I want to work on this with you. I want to help together. I
Yeah.
want to. I'm with you. I want to be on your team.
And it requires you to be willing to submit yourself to the role. All right?
yeah,
That's good.
How about taking care of the car?
She was helpful.
yeah.
You're way better at that anyways.
You know, another thing that I think that probably has fallen out since you have been struggling is the idea that you two actually go do things together that are fun. I'm willing to bet you just haven't been doing very much of that.
My husband, no.
And that makes life kind of boring. So I think as the leader, you ought to be tasked with seeing to it that the two of you get out every week and go do something. And it doesn't have to be expensive. You know, you can go to the city park and take a walk. My wife and I used to go out and watch the airplanes land at the airport. So you can do things like that.
He's like, what?
And round it up with going by someplace and getting an ice cream sundae or something. You could go rent a movie and watch it at home, I suppose. You know, that would be another thing. But you need to plan the activity. It needs to occur every week. Do you think you could add that to your list?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. I think that'd probably be good for the first week to put on your plate, those things.
So being in charge of a weekly date, going shopping, monitored shopping, and taking the car back over.
Yes.
Okay.
So we'll check with you next week when you come and see how you did with it.
Okay. All right.
You could probably go down through the list of all the things that you've been doing since he was in the hospital that you weren't doing before. And you could start giving him the ones that have the least liability associated with them.
Okay. Just kind of start there, practice there, and then
Yes.
maybe if he's not able to handle that, take that back on and try something else. And
Well, you know what? I bet that he's probably capable of a whole lot more things, doing a whole lot more things right now than you think he is. And that part of the reason why you struggle with letting him do things is because of your fear of what's happened in the past.
well, that's true.
So I don't think his past performance is, as they say on those disclaimers about stocks and bonds and gold and silver, past performance doesn't necessarily guarantee future outcomes, either good or bad, one way or the other. So, you know, I would start with all the simple things like getting a car fixed and stuff like that, and I would be turning those things back over to him. And you need to start figuring out probably financially what aspects of the finances that Aaron should be having more input and control over.
I mean, maybe I could get him like a cash credit card thing and stick only a certain amount on it so he can't go over. And maybe if I were to do like the auto thing, like give him the card, and there's only enough on there for like car repairs, just to kind of help him.
Whatever you can figure out to give back those tasks, I think would be a good thing.
Okay.
All right? So if you want your husband to be a leader and you don't want to be spending the rest of your life doing all these things yourself, you're going to have to let him. And from what I've seen over the last few weeks, I think he's ready to take on some of those tasks again. All right? On the face of the earth, your husband should have at least one person who's always in his corner. And that ought to be
Me.
Yeah. What is it they always used to say that you're really unfortunate, you know, that if you're the kind of person that only your mother can love, you know, that your qualities in life are such that, you know, the kind of person only a mother could love, but that you'd be really miserable if your mother didn't love you. Well, you need to be the one person on the face of the earth that is always going to be in your husband's corner. I know that a few weeks back you threatened to leave your husband.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I assume that he's not committed adultery and he hasn't left you. And you've never told me anything where you felt that you were physically threatened by him.
No, just
Yeah.
verbally.
Yeah. So, absent those kind of things, you don't have any real biblical reason to leave him, do you?
No.
No. In fact, when you said those vows, when you got married, at the end of it, what was it? For richer, for poorer,
Better for
worse, richer for poorer, and what was the last couple of them? In sickness and in health. Yeah. So, there's a passage, I think, in Colossians where the masters of servants were told to leave off threatening. Not to threaten the workers with bodily harm and other things. And I've always pulled that out and said, you shouldn't be threatening anybody that you're going to do something to them if you don't have a biblical warrant to do it. All right? So you want to make sure that your support for your husband is always going to be there and is driven by your love for Christ. The reason why you love your husband today is because Jesus loved you and died for you on the cross. And you want to love your husband because it's commanded of you in Scripture, and it will honor and glorify God. All right?
Sure. Chantel was kind of talking to me about this a little bit too, so it's not like brand new information, but it's like, yeah, I mean, I do want to definitely get some stuff off my plate and get it. I feel like we'll have to do it slowly, kind of be wise about it and make sure that you can handle it.
I know you've had a concern about the future.
Yeah, I mean, just like what does this look like moving forward? Because like even if he stays on his meds, I mean, it's probably likely he might have another manic episode, so I want to be like kind of prepared, or just, I mean, I don't know if you can be prepared for that, but yeah, like just kind of what that looks like. What can we...
Well, from a medical viewpoint, we don't know for sure that he will have another manic episode as long as he takes his medicine. We don't know that he won't, but we think it's a lot less likely that he will. So I don't think you should spend the rest of your life worrying about something that hasn't happened yet and may not happen in the future. That's one thing. Second thing that I would keep in mind is that the outcome of a manic episode should be somewhat different if he is surrounded by friends and by the small group and by folks who are going to love him through it and hold him accountable for his behavior. I have a good friend who dealt with a gentleman who had committed adultery in a manic episode 10 years earlier. He and his wife were separated. They reconciled, and just about that time he had another manic episode, but this time he had a bunch of men who knew about him, knew what his situation was, and they stuck with him all the way through it, and he didn't commit adultery in that second episode. So I don't think it's as likely if you are in care with a group and with your church and with friends, that the outcome needs to be as difficult as it was before. I think a third thing that you need to consider is in 2 Corinthians 12. And it's the purpose for difficulties in our lives. It really grows out of Romans 8, 28, 29, where Paul tells us that we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose. And then he tells us what the purpose is in verse 29, and that is that we might be conformed to the image of his Son. When you look at the challenges that are going to be ahead of you in life, and there will be more, and they're not all going to be mania. You know, there are just going to be all kinds of difficulties that you're going to get to face as you live out your lifespan. You get to look at those opportunities, you get to look at them as the opportunity to become more like Christ, to respond to them in a way that pleases God. And so I think you have to keep Aaron's mania in that kind of focus. And then you have to look at other individuals' experiences in it. And that's why I told you to turn to 2 Corinthians chapter 12. And it starts at verse 7 where Paul says, because of the surpassing greatness of the revelation, for this reason, to keep me from exalting myself, there was given me a thorn in the flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me, to keep me from exalting myself. We don't know what that was. All kinds of speculation about it. We know that Paul had bad vision, that he had an eye problem. We think maybe he might have had some kind of eye disease that was uncomfortable and certainly limited him in a lot of ways, and that might have been what this is, but we don't know for sure. Concerning this, I implored the Lord, this is the important point, 3 times that it might leave me. And he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for power is perfect in weakness. For power is perfected in weakness. And Paul then said, most gladly, therefore, I will rather boast about my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may dwell in me. And then he said, therefore, I am well content with weaknesses, with insults, distresses, and persecutions, and with difficulty, for Christ's sake. For when I'm weak, then I am strong. So, the point of that is that God intends to give you grace to face any kind of trouble that you might have in the future, Aaron. Any problems that you might have as a couple. He intends to give you grace with that. He intends to give you grace for trouble that you have at work, trouble that you have any place in life. And that grace will be sufficient for the struggle that you face.
I need that, that's for sure.
Oh, we all do. Paul said in Ephesians 2 that by grace we're saved through faith, and that not of ourselves. It's the gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. And then he went on to say that we are his workmanship. And I'm always amazed at how many people get it straight when it comes to the idea that we're saved by grace. That I didn't earn my salvation, didn't do anything to deserve it. Someone told me about the gospel. I came to understand it. God granted me repentance, and I accepted his Son as Savior, and I got my salvation for free as far as it was concerned to me, by grace. But then for some reason, a lot of us turn around and think that we have to work our way, the rest of the way in. That, it's going to be all about me being good and doing right from then forward on my own, when it's not. Not only are we saved by grace, we live by grace. And so God will give you grace, both of you, to deal with the medical problems that you're going to face and for the rest of the struggles that you might have as a result. Even if you didn't have mania, you guys are going to have problems.
Or the depression too.
Well, if you didn't have depression, you guys are going to have problems. You're people and you're married. It gives us always the opportunity to have struggles.
That's one of the main things I tell people in premarital. So you're going to have problems. On the honeymoon. Drew's like, yep, we have problems. You've been married, 5 months now? 6 months? 5 months. Yeah, even in 5 months, hasn't been perfectly smooth sailing. I'm sure a lot has been smooth sailing. There's been some difficult, rough patches. I don't know. I have no idea. I know for our first year was rough because I was a wicked sinner, still am. But I tell them, look, it's normal. It's normal. It's okay. It's normal stuff, and by the grace of God, as 2 Corinthians 13, my grace is sufficient for you. You have to remember that. No matter how difficult, how easy the marriage is, or the situation may be, God's grace is sufficient for that. And that's good that you're saying that. It's helpful. That's a good word of hope. I try to give that sort of hope to people in not just in premarital but in marriage counseling. This is normal. People call and ask me for counseling. I just say, well, I thank you for reaching out. what you're going through is normal. It is difficult, but it is normal. And God's word is sufficient. It is helpful to give you some hope and to give you some help. And he's laying that sort of foundation and reminding them of those things. Yes, this is hard. You don't know what you will face in the future, but God's grace is enough for you. So that's good.
Well, at some point, we are not going to be meeting anymore. It's not right now. This isn't going to be our last session, but
Better not.
No.
We gotta keep going for a little bit.
yeah, there's more we want to cover. But I thought for a moment we could review the things that we have covered that I'm going to want you to be reviewing. All right?
Right.
And when we get to your last session, I'm going to give you a sheet of paper, and it's going to have all the things that we've covered, and on what days of the week I want you to review them, and then I also want you to give a copy of it to your accountability couple so that they can ask you every week if you actually did review it. Because in my experience in counseling, people who don't review the stuff that they learn on a regular basis soon slip back into their old habits. So, and we don't want you doing that. All right? So the things that we've talked about, I think the most important thing we've talked about, after the fact that you're both Christians and both know the Lord, was motive. 2 Corinthians 5:9, and I want you to review those verses that go along with, I want to glorify God with my life more than I want to breathe, and how that changes your life. And then the 4 rules of communication. You should have that up on your refrigerator. Maybe you need it on the mirror. Some people put it on the dashboard of their car. And
I have a sticky note with it by my desk.
excellent. I think some people need it tattooed on the inside of their eyelids, but at any rate, so you're going to review those on a regular basis every week, and then the principles of forgiveness that you learned. It's vital to the survival of any marriage that a couple be willing and able to understand what it means to ask for and to give forgiveness when we do things that are wrong. Then those lessons that we studied for anger and worry, you're going to need to review those every week. Just look through them so you remember what the principles are. That weekly budget meeting, where you two figure out how to divvy up the work that you do on finance. That's absolutely vital. You need to do that the rest of your life. Reviewing the principles that we talked about with regard to growth and change. Putting off old bad habits when we find that when we find in Scripture that they are old bad habits, and then putting on the new biblical behaviors that we find in their place. You guys need to keep that firmly fixed in your mind and keep reviewing it. I think keeping clearly fixed in your thinking what we talked about as far as how we approach chronic medical illness in a biblical way. Understanding that your medical issue is probably never going away. You're going to get to deal with this the rest of your life. The best outcome is you're going to be taking medicine for the rest of your life, and you're going to live a normal, reasonable, functioning life. Someplace in between here and there is that you'll have struggles at times, but when you have struggles, you're going to have help. You're going to have people who are around you that you can trust. You're going to have your wife at your side to tell you, honey, I think you need to talk to the doctor, or your friends who will do the same, people who keep track of you. And with that in mind, I think you can be optimistic about what the outcome's going to be in the future. Well, I do have one homework assignment for you this week, because I think it's something important that you both need to be doing, and that is being involved in Christian service. I believe every believer has gifts that God has given them, and that you should be using them to help other people. Now, Christian service is defined this way. The first aspect of it is that it has to be for another person, all right? This is for both of you. It requires it to be for 2 hours a week. They can't be a relative either. You know, I try to, I always tell couples that there's always secondary gain in doing things for your mother-in-law. So this is really has to be a one-way thing. I'm serving another person, all right? And it has to be a person. It can't be cutting grass or washing windows at church. It really has to be for a real life, honest goodness person. And you can take nothing from them. You know, they can't pay you for what you do or anything like that. I had a physician that I helped care for at one point who was sitting around his office morbidly depressed. And his wife called me and begged me to come over and help her one Saturday morning. And one of his assignments was to go find a little old lady out in the neighborhood who couldn't take care of things at her house and go serve her by doing those things. And he did. He did it for the rest of his life and her life. And they became fast friends, and it was very good for him. So this week, I want you all to sit down. You can consult with your pastor if you need to in order to figure out who you might talk to. And then I want you to come back next week and tell me who you're going to be serving. All right? Okay. All right. Well, that's probably as much as we can cover today. Why don't we pray? Heavenly Father, God, I thank you for Ellie and Aaron, and I thank you for the growth and change that we've seen in their lives. Lord, I thank you that you have promised to be with them through their struggles from now on, and that you are going to give them grace to deal with it. God, I pray that you do this, and I ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
The issue with the service is helpful. I probably would not have waited till this late in the game to do that. I probably would have started that earlier. Maybe not. Maybe with them, it's just it wasn't a primary issue. It's really secondary or tertiary. So they have to put it off because there's so many other more important things to bring up. But I think serving is pretty important. Remember the 4 legs of the table for spiritual stability. One of those 4 legs is serving. So if we had one of those missing for a long time, we're still not going to be as stable as we probably could be. I like to include that fairly early on, serving in some way, serving in some ministry in the church. You know, I know what he's saying there, like you can't be mowing the lawn at church because that's not for a person, it's for the building. Yeah, I don't know. I might not be as strict, but...
If you're the one person that mows the grass, so that all the other people don't have to come mow the grass.
Yeah, and that's where I wouldn't limit it so much for that. I know what he's saying, I get it, so that you're able to serve a specific person with a specific need. I get that, but I might I wouldn't be as strict in that. Yeah, Jimmy.
Could it have been so that they have more interaction with their community because they're lacking something?
Yeah, that could be it too. That could be part of the reason why we want it to be a person. Like maybe, you need to be maybe more relationships. Like that could be because of that. Yeah. It could be a case by case basis for that. That's a good point. The lights going out.
I thought I was
having a seizure. Yeah, I had a meeting earlier today over here with the guys in the bathroom. They want to meet here next to the door, so we moved everything over here, and that light was going on and off. It was very difficult. Anyway, but I think that is in and of itself a very, very important aspect for counseling and for homework is to be serving in some way. Find some way to serve. And it's good he didn't say, why don't you serve these people in this way? It's find somebody to serve and find a way to serve them. That's often what I say is find somebody to serve and use your gifts, skills, and resources to serve them in a very practical way, even in ways you don't want to. Even if you're not good at it, it doesn't really matter. You need to do it.
I think
Yeah.
when you're serving someone, like if you do Meals for Wills, it forces you to communicate also, and that's probably why he was saying not just mow the grass.
Yeah,
but
good.
it's forcing you to communicate.
Yeah,
so
forcing you to speak to somebody and talk. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Yeah, that's helpful. And that could be another reason exactly why he's probably doing that. For him, you need to be able to, learn how to better communicate with people in your
Because if you're
community and
painting the house or mowing the yard, it's a solo thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Now let's see. We'll listen to his recap.
Well, I'll see you next week. Well, you know, part of the problem is the format. We had to cram in a whole lot of information in a short period of time. I doubt I would have talked about both the role of the husband and the wife in one sitting. That would certainly be split out into two. We'd spend a whole lot more time teasing out the scriptural aspects of it and what the roles were. I would have liked to have gone through Romans 8 to give them some more hope. I would do that, next session. I'd probably circle back and tag on the roles, spend more time talking about that, emphasize the 2 Corinthians 5:9 aspect of occupying these roles. I've had couples in equally as difficult, maybe even worse situations, who, if they are willing to apply themselves to the idea that what they're doing is for the glory of God and keep that firmly fixed in their minds, and then start looking at the problems that come to them in marriage, whether they be medical or non-medical, as the opportunities to grow and change, become more like Christ, the opportunity to see what Christ must have thought when he was dying and living and dying for us. I think that they can do very well. Question of having children didn't come up in the videos, but we talked back and forth about it outside of the video, and I think it's important for individuals who are couples who are in this situation to talk to their physician, their OBGYN physician, prior to becoming pregnant, and so they can have a good understanding of what the goods and the harms might be in that situation. I would say that the literature that I've seen recently is optimistic, that this kind of situation is not a certainty that a couple isn't going to have children. I would say that the literature would say it's a lot more likely that a couple like this can have children and do well. But that always keep in mind that medicine changes. Medicine changes pretty rapidly, and that anyone who's in the situation and wants to know that information should be talking to their doctor about it. I probably would talk more about how Ellie was suffering, the reality and the nature of her suffering. I think I would have spent more time on that. Might have spent more time talking about Aaron's struggle. The reality of what it's like to be manic at the time you're manic. I read, and I think it's true, that for people who are really floridly manic, that it's a lot like being in a car going very fast down a crowded street and not having brakes or a steering wheel. That's kind of what it's like. So it's a frightening thing to them at the time. Well, I think it's always great to have a good relationship with a physician that you can talk to about situations like this. We would call it curbside consults in medicine. Somebody that, this isn't going to be an official consult, but could you tell me what you know about this? So it's always good to have someone that you can talk to like that. And then I think in situations where you have someone who's struggling like this, it's really very, very useful to talk to the treating physician. The person who is actually writing the medicine and taking care of Aaron. You would want to talk to them if you could and tell them how they see things going. And you also want to communicate back to them how you see things going, because actually it's kind of useful to know that there's someone out there who is, supporting what you're doing as the physician in the care of the patient. What I'm really, I know this person needs to take their medicine, and I know that you need somebody else speaking that over them. And, it would be useful to them to know that that's what's going on.
All right.
Charlie.
What are any other questions?
I didn't understand his comment about future children, since he has the medical issue and she doesn't.
Yeah.
Was he talking about if the wife has a medical issue that she could still?
No, like passing on.
Genetically passing it on?
Yeah.
And the question of, as far as, I think it would raise questions about like their roles, like if this is something that ends up just like being really unstable and medicine doesn't help as much as they'd want it to.
Yeah.
Like
Like,
she'd
could
essentially
he
be
be a
single
caregiver?
parenting. Like could he be a faithful caregiver to the kids?
Yeah, that's a good point, Brooke. Yeah,
We
so
trust
the genetic issue
him.
thing is part of it, but also, does she trust him enough to be able to have kids and have him take over certain responsibilities she's not going to be able
Would
to
she
do
be
anymore?
able to leave her child alone with them?
Right.
Yeah, or
I mean,
she has to like step back from work for a time or forever. Can he financially support the family? So that some big issues with that. But I think also some physicians are concerned about passing this on. I don't know. I know a guy who has the same genetic mutation Eric does, Louis Dietz. He has the same genetic, not exact mutation, but the same disease, different genetic mutation. And he knew it for a long time. He had the same sort of surgery Eric had when he was 25, I think, or maybe a little earlier. Because they say the average age of somebody who has Louis Dietz, who doesn't have a heart surgery like that, is something like 23, 24 years old. When you don't know, you die. You just don't know it until you're dead. But he got married to a friend of my wife's, and decided to have kids, and a lot of people counseled him against it. Said, hey, your kids are probably going to have these problems. And he's like, well, I don't know, man, we're just going to trust God. And they have problems. But he doesn't regret it. It's a life. He was able to shepherd his kids, and and that's a big debate in medical kind of community.
I feel like if it's God's will that you have kids, you're gonna have kids, whether people
Yeah.
tell you to or not. Like
Yeah.
I know people who have kids and they're perfectly healthy and normal, and then they get hit by a car and they're like a vegetable for the rest of their life. So
Oh, I know.
it's- you have no control over any of it.
Yeah. So we have to, be
I know
understanding.
people that have had testing when they were pregnant
Yeah.
and told that their baby was going to have all these problems, and the baby was born healthy.
Yeah, I hear stories like that all the time. We just don't know. Just don't know. Like just with Parkinson's stuff, that's obviously something I struggle with. When Michael J. Fox was first diagnosed, they thought, hey, should we have kids?
Oh, we didn't have them yet.
They didn't know. Nope. They might have had one at the time. I can't remember, but the doctor said, no, it's not genetic. Now, 25 years later, most doctors agree that it is somewhat genetic. They don't know what degree Parkinson's is genetic. But since my grandfather had it, my dad has it, and I have it, it's probably genetic. But to what degree, we don't. Doctors have no idea. And so even that concerns all these sort of medical issues. Well, should you have kids? Sure. It's up to you. But I think, so for them, my issue for them would not so much be the medical issue, but it would be Aaron needs to have some stability first. Yeah, we're gonna ask a question.
I was gonna comment on the missed opportunity for her after he gave her the counsel about, hey, for better, for worse, mature, for poor, this is worse, sicker, poor, right?
Yeah.
She missed the opportunity to look to her husband and say, I'm not leaving you. And
Yeah, that's
take it
good.
back.
Yeah.
She went back to, yeah, I got a lot of things I wanna take off my plate, instead of.
Yeah, it's a good
apologizing,
observation, Amy.
reaffirming.
Good observation, yeah. She could have said, yeah, you're right, honey. I want to reaffirm that vow.
Mhm.
Right? I think in the earlier video, it might have been last week, or I don't know, the whole forgiveness thing. They were each supposed to write down areas that they need to ask forgiveness for. So hopefully she did that.
Mhm.
I've counseled couples where they've threatened that, hey, I'm going to leave you. Well, you didn't ask forgiveness for that. It's a sin. You threaten that. That's bad. It's horrible. You don't want to threaten that. Ask for forgiveness for that. So hopefully that took place. Okay, let's take a little bit of a break. On come back, we probably won't get through all of this because I've seen this video before. It's really, really good, and it's an hour long. We have an hour left. Wait. Oh wait, no, it's only 8. Oh yeah, it's 8. This is session 1 of Jeremy and Crystal. We're only going to see Jeremy in this video, and you'll see why. But it's very, very good. It's excellent. We're only going to see part of it. We'll probably only get through the first 30 minutes of it. But I want to start it because it's very, very needed.
Question.
Yes.
Are you gonna start wearing embroidered buttons?
I try to find those, and they're either you can't buy them online.
You need Heath to like hand sew it.
Yeah, you can't buy them on the website. You can like buy them at the conferences, but they're like
Oh.
$50. I'm not gonna spend $50 on a shirt. Dr. Street has them, but he has a budget.
Yeah.
It's gonna be $50 on a shirt.
You can always get permission to use the logo and then make yourself.
I know. I thought about that. Like, can I just get the logo and have Adam do that? Like, he can redo the logo for me.
Well, it's like, yeah, they can send you a logo and you just like give it to a t-shirt designer and you
Yeah.
just zip it right on.
Yeah, I probably won't do that. I if anything, I'd have the Cornerstone Church logo embroidered.
We should do that.
I want to do that. It's just expensive. So anyway, let's take a little bit of a break. I'm just see if we can fix that light real quick too.
Cool.
So, okay.
Your hair is making me want cotton candy.
You know, I just try to instill a little cotton candy to everybody. That's what I do. No, it's not even styled right now. I just took a shower and then it out the side.
One banana split, mint chocolate chip, peanut butter chocolate. Puree is found. Sugar brown. With a note in the top. That's how healthy I was after delivering. Went to Brahms and I got a bacon double cheeseburger and a banana split.
If I go to Brahms, I like their fries. You know how I told you I don't eat very many fries. I'm not a fry person. I like Brahms fries. I think they're my favorite.
Are they?
Every fry I've ever had from Brahms is my favorite. They're little crinkle cut fries.
Oh, good.
I was told Brooke, her hair's making me want cotton candy.
So the ladies are not working. I got
What do you have to do?
the lights off, so you didn't see the light under the bottom. So that's for ducking, it's just 20. But the check
This
for
one's loose.
Davidson, you guys leave a name blank.
You have to get like a screwdriver or something up in there and like push the things down.
One.
Yeah.
It's just a fluorescent, so yeah.
Yeah, here I got one. Just got it.
LED. This one's super bright.
Yeah. It's not exactly the same bright color, but it's like a little more yellow.
Children are gonna complain.
Huh?
The children are gonna complain.
They're both plastic You want a,
Cut that up.
metal knife?
Right, some-
Yeah, we have metal knives in there. We got the nice cover. Cutlery.
We got,
The reception rooms.
live drafts.
I just found it stacked in the right one.
That
I'm trying to decide on Cube's name.
I found massive holes today walking around the guest house.
And they love like ducks and chicken.
I think you got the
Your
best
kids
one.
can be.
I agree.
They're nocturnal, so I'll know.
They're probably Wolverines from that camp, whatever it is, the Michigan place.
Yeah.
The
Probably.
Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah. Cam Davis, they.
You couldn't imagine what we did the other day.
Are you serious?
No, I
You
can't.
can't, yeah, you can't imagine.
Whoever it is, I'm gonna kill it.
I'm thinking you should have brought her downstairs sooner so she could have seen Haley. She turned into a different person.
The distraction thing. Mr. was gonna ask you about the Yellowstone trip.
Oh, it was fun, man. It was really good.
So you were part of the whole
Well, I was, but not really.
All right. Whoops.
I was, but I was able to come back early, yesterday, so, because Todd and I teach the children. So we were like, sorry guys, we have to leave you. Like, we need to serve the church. We were like, okay, that's fine. It was, like, Cassidy's girl, so they just stayed. Right, so there's like, feeding ball and all that kind of stuff, so.
Yeah.
No, it was a great weekend.
Good, right.
Yeah, it was totally worth it.
All right, guys. We'll start this. This is Heath Lambert, the current executive director for ACBC. He's passing on the baton to Dale Johnson. But we're gonna see how he deals with this guy Jeremy, who's married, has one child, been married for 15-some years. Been struggling with pornography for like 25-something years. We're gonna see how he deals with this guy.
These are not actors, right? This is real?
No, these are pretend too.
Oh.
Yeah. But again, Heath Lambert doesn't know how he's gonna respond.
Mm-hmm.
So he knows the basic issue.
Yeah. Yeah. So he just knows, hey, this is the issue. Go.
Well, so I'm glad you're here, but I know that you said you wanted to come over to talk about something that's going on. So how can I help?
Yeah. Thanks for seeing me. You know, this is kind of embarrassing to talk about because I know it's something that a lot of guys struggle with, but my family's struggling. I mean, we've hit a rough patch right now.
Okay.
So, I guess you'll probably want me to say something about it. So what happened was a couple nights ago, I was sitting out in the living room, and I mean this is really embarrassing, but I was sitting out in the living room, and I was looking at porn, and my daughter, who is my oldest daughter, Piper, she came out and caught me looking at porn, and she stopped talking to me. My wife Crystal is pregnant, and she's really, really mad. I mean, really pissed, and doesn't want to talk to me either. And we're kind of on the outs. She said that if I don't get this fixed, then she's gonna leave me. So she's asked that I come talk to you, or suggested I come talk to you, and I thought it was a good idea, I guess. So I'm just here so that you'll fix me and kind of fix my marriage.
Okay. Well.
Yeah.
What do you say you want?
She said that you'll fix me and fix my marriage, and he was like,
Yeah. Again, you see his response like, "Whoa, all right." He would respond that way, and I would respond that way. A couple reasons. One, because of what he had just said. It's a big issue. He's looking at porn. His daughter caught him. His wife is ticked. She said, I want to leave you if you don't get this fixed. So, hey, fix me.
It's like a pill.
Yeah, it's like a pill, exactly. Yeah, fix my marriage, give me a pill, make me happy. So he's like, all right, whoa, we gotta change the agenda, buddy. This ain't slow it down. I can't fix you. That's the agenda. I can't. God has to, but that should not be our agenda, right? As the other guy said, our agenda for counseling, 2 Corinthians 5:9, is the glory of God.
Well, help me get a little clearer picture of what's going on here. So you said you were in the living room.
Yeah.
And your daughter walked in.
Yeah.
And I forget how old she is.
She's 11.
She's 11.
Yeah.
Tell me what she saw.
Well, I mean, how do you explain it? It was porn. I mean,
She did see the screen.
Yeah.
Were you looking on your computer?
I was looking on my laptop.
Okay.
And it's my laptop that I have for work, so I can't really get rid of it. I mean, it's just there, but and it doesn't have anything on it, on any like filters or anything. And I was on there. I was just looking at porn.
Were you looking at movies?
Yes.
Okay, so she heard things too.
Yes.
When she saw you, what did she see? Were you covered up or were you exposed?
No, I was covered up, but this is really embarrassing. But I mean, I was just doing what guys do when they look at porn. I mean, I had clothes on,
but I was
touching myself. Yeah.
And what happened? How did you become aware that she saw you?
Okay, although it's awkward, it's weird. He's asking some very good questions. It's not over the top. He's not wanting too many details. He's wanting to know, to what extent did your daughter see you? Because it's going to depend on how severe.
You might have to report that to.
Yeah, you have to report some of that. Yeah, it's a good point. And also, I may need to talk to her, to the daughter about some of the stuff, and also, what the heck, man?
Hence why asking age.
Oh, like that in your living room, on your work computer.
Yeah, and you're doing that in the middle of the open in your house. I mean, if you're doing it there, okay, something has happened. This isn't the first time, obviously. It's the first time you got caught. He feels comfortable doing that. He's asking good questions. When you're asking guys or girls who are looking at pornography, you want to ask a follow-up question. Well, when you look at that, I mean, you're probably not just looking. There's some other things going on. You're self-gratifying, right?
Well, he doesn't sound remorseful for what he did.
Good, yeah. Heath Lambert's gonna nail him to the wall for that.
And I think it's important there.
Yes.
He needs to look like
Himself, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like look the scene, and for that he feel embarrassing, but it's good.
Yeah,
because
good.
You have to see your scene and you have to say this is bad. And
good.
And I think when you see your scene, it's embarrassing.
Yes.
But you have to feel that.
Yes.
Like embarrassing because you have to think there that is offend God.
Yes.
So
good.
That feel is good. So
good.
Sometimes for me, I don't know for you, but sometimes for me it's like I don't want the other people feel bad about
their son.
Yeah.
Their son.
No, about
his own.
Él mismo.
Oh.
Ella misma.
Oh, the same.
No, I don't
You
know.
want them to feel the same way that.
No. Yeah. Sometimes I don't want like people feel bad,
Yeah.
But
yes. Okay.
You have it's like you see it, so you have to feel that because you have to be repent about it.
Good.
And that.
I think the word you're looking for is conviction. that you don't,
Yeah.
you don't want them to feel the conviction, but they have to feel the conviction before they can make a improvement.
Yes.
Good, yeah, Gabby, those are great points. If he feels embarrassed, but he needs to, because if he's not embarrassed, I mean, at this point, you know, he obviously, as we pointed out before, he doesn't feel the remorse, doesn't feel the guilt, right? He doesn't feel that, and that's bad. He doesn't feel bad for this necessarily. He feels embarrassed.
It's more like he doesn't feel bad because he did the crime, he feels bad because he got caught.
This is
Good.
Clinton, Clintonian repentance, right? Not really.
The Clinton syndrome.
The story, I think you told us in an earlier class about another story. I think Dr. Streeter, one of the dudes, masters, taught you guys.
Yeah.
There's this young couple that was engaged. Obviously, they were caught in like sexual sin.
Yes.
And he was like, he like called them. He like met up with them. And he was like, I need to tell you, like, someone.
Yeah.
Knows. And they were like, oh crap. And he's like, this guy who knew all along. And they're like, oh okay. And he's like, that's why. He would love you.
You don't care.
Yeah.
Boom.
That was Rick Holland.
Yeah,
Rick Holland. A couple came in and said, yeah, we want to confess some sins. Like, I know what you did. 'Cause he wasn't new to college ministry and keep doing that, but.
It's like when you say like sorry, but someone asks you why, and you don't want to talk about it because you feel like, but you have to, because it's like, you know, have to see your heart.
Good. You have to see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That has to be exposed.
Exactly.
Yeah. Otherwise, there's going to be some problems. You're not going to be able to repent, right? If you don't see that, you don't feel that conviction. Good.
Can I give a tiny glimmer of hope?
Yes.
At least he's embarrassed. I just got a text from Kathy Yola, Kathy Richard in Vegas.
Yeah.
And they're like, man's depravity on full display.
Dude, Vegas is the
and no
worst.
shame about it. They're like, anything can be fulfilled without any shame at
Yeah.
all.
Whenever we drive to California,
Wow.
we always drive through. We have to drive through Vegas. I guess we could take the long way around. And it's, you know, it's dumb. I hate it.
Billboards and
Yeah. Yeah. It's you know it's bad.
It also shows how man, like, no matter how, like we're under a curse, like we know that we are not perfect. So even sinners would say, like, are they like sense this guilt? I mean, I don't know. Maybe I don't know if scripture would say like someone's conscience is completely seared, or like they would never ever be like, oops, that was bad.
Sure.
But at least his conscience is not seared to the point of like he at least understands like, crap, I messed up.
Well, a lot of times people who have really seared consciences, they don't realize the gravity of the thing they've done unless the consequences are very big.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good point too.
Unless what's very good?
The
Unless
consequences.
are
Yeah.
big. Like people, they'll go to Vegas or whatever, and they'll like live their most depraved lifestyle because it's super glorified. And they're like, yeah, just do whatever makes you happy, party it up, live your life, be exciting. And then you contract a venereal disease, and then you're like, oh, that was a mistake.
Oops.
But that is the point when they realize it was a mistake. It's not, like if nothing bad came out of it, it'd be like, cool, this is the best thing ever.
Yeah. Yeah, and Heath Lambert's gonna really deal with that throughout mainly this whole first session.
Well, the way our house is situated, I was sitting with my back towards the wall, because I don't want her to see this stuff. I don't want to like scar her, but I was kind of sitting with my back against the wall, and she came up kind of out of our kitchen area, and she came up kind of behind me and to the side to see what I was doing, because like normally in the middle of the day and whatnot, if I'm on my laptop, then it's fine for her to come by, but this was later in the evening, and so.
And did she say something to you?
She kind of just was like, "Oh my gosh, what's that?" And then ran to the back to the room.
And was your
to my
wife there?
Crystal, yeah, she was.
And so what happened at that point?
Well, obviously I shut it off. My first instinct was to hide it, but I was kind of had, right? Crystal came out. Obviously, she was mad, dude. I mean, she was really mad.
She's mad, dude.
And I guess I kind of understand that she's mad, but I mean, she's pregnant and she hasn't really been all that available, you know, sexually. So it's one of those things where it's like, you know, I mean, I feel bad about it, but I kind of like work is busy and stressful, and you know, I need kind of like the stress relief and whatnot, and she's not available as much as she used to be, and so you know, she came out, she was mad, like.
Again, those statements, and you know, Drew said I wonder when that's going to come up. Yeah, those. I mean, you know, what does that statement indicate about his heart?
He's selfish.
Selfish? Yeah, he views sex as a self-gratifying event. But it's not. Like love is an act of giving, so is sex. It's an act of giving of yourself to the benefit of your spouse. He doesn't see it that way, obviously. She's not available to. She's pregnant, man. Let's serve your wife, dude. Get over it. Like, you'll be fine. You won't die. You know, I've heard a lot of men say, well, I need it. I'm like, no, you don't. You don't need that. Jesus never had sex. Paul was single for most of his ministry. Some people think he was married beforehand because a lot of Pharisees were. Maybe. We don't really know. A lot of faithful missionaries were single dudes. They didn't do that. And he's going to say later on, well, everyone does it. He's going to say that. Heath Lambert kind of goes at him. So it's yeah, his heart's just, it's selfish.
Really mad, and so she called her mom, and then you know I kind of just slept out on the couch.
All right. And she said that if you don't get it fixed.
Yeah, she's gone.
Okay.
Then I mean,
so you're
at the
here
minimum,
because
at the minimum, she's probably gonna move out and go live with her mom. I don't know if we're gonna stay married or not.
That's the plan right now, is for her to go live with her mom?
If this doesn't get fixed.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you're here because she told you to come talk to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't want my kid to see me doing that, you know.
Sure.
And look, I mean, I'm not just doing this for you know, just to kind of do whatever. I mean, I love my wife and I love my kids, so you know, I want to do this for them. I want them to be around. I don't want to lose them.
Yeah. You know, I was thinking when you said you wanted to talk, and I didn't know what was going on.
Right. Right.
I mean, we've been at the same church for a long time, but I haven't had much interaction with you guys. You've seemed to me to be a generally happy family. You come to church and you serve in a couple of different ministries. Our kids have played together, but there's a lot I just realized I don't understand about you and your marriage, and so would it be okay if I just ask you some questions about your past and your family a little bit?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. So obviously this wasn't the first time you've looked at porn. When you were saying. So tell me how porn kind of started in your life.
Yeah, I mean, I was first time I saw porn, I was a kid, probably around 9 or 10. My buddy found porn, his dad's porn, in his house, and you know, brought it out, and we looked at it. You know, it's just magazines or whatever, like Playboy and things like that. Mm-hmm. And that kind of started this whole thing with porn. You know, and so it wasn't until I was probably about 15 when I started looking at it.
How old was he?
9.
9. I read the stats not too long ago. That's about an average age for kids right now, both men and women. One of the reasons is because of this. My son asked me, when can I have a phone? When you're old enough to have a job. Even then, if you're in my house, I don't know.
The days of the friends who had it.
My parents gave me a flip phone for my first phone when I first started working.
Yeah.
So like, you don't need.
These weren't invented, but when I moved to Jackson, These didn't, like, they just barely came out. And then the smartphones didn't exist. But they've revolutionized pornography. You know, yeah, flip phones. You can still buy them. We can go, anyway. 9, 10 years old, and that's the age of my son. He wonders why I won't let him have a computer in his room. I told him, I said, I'm not dumb. He's like, what does that mean, Dad? I'm like, you'll find out when you're older.
You know, you don't have to be looking for it. There's websites.
Exactly.
You just click on something and it pops up.
Exactly. Which is why I don't want my kids to have that exposure, or their friends, or whatever. You know, he started at 9 years old. He's like mid-30s now. It wasn't until he was 15 or so, he said, when it really started to really pick up in his life. And so we'll kind of continue from there and see what happens.
Daily.
Daily.
And
daily. Again, at 15. You know, again, the majority of people, a majority of guys who struggle with pornography don't do it once a month. It's every day. From my experience with working with men, to some degree, you know, it's very, very, very common. The Proverbs indicate that. You know, that when you, I can't remember, it's like Proverbs 22 or 23. That the heart is never satisfied. The heart of man is never satisfied. Right. So it's. Of course it's not satisfied with pornography. It's never satisfactory. This is very, very common, and most people don't talk about it. Most men don't talk about it. A lot of pastors struggle with pornography. A lot of pastors struggle with this, which is why they fall into adultery most of the time. It doesn't just happen. Oops, I committed adultery. No, it starts here most of the time.
And since I was 15, you know, I've been looking at it. I know the Bible says that it's wrong, but it's become kind of a part of my life, and you know, it's not really hurting anybody, but so I started to.
Till now. Okay, it's been a part of my life. I know the Bible says it's wrong, but it's been a part of my life. It's just a part of my life now. Again, those are excuses I hear all the time. No, I guess not all the time. I hear those. Thankfully, I don't hear them all the time. I hear them. Not just with pornography, but with a lot of other issues. It's just a part of my life. So what? It's sin. If you're not like Jesus in that particular area, then it's wrong. And it doesn't matter how frequent it's going on, or how much it hurts, or how habitual it is. You need to change, right? And again, you see his heart coming out like, whatever. And who cares? I'm only here for my wife.
So, yeah, until now, right? So I started looking at it almost every day. I was looking at it when Crystal and I were engaged, and then, you know, we got married, and it's kind of been off and on. You know, looking at porn. You know, I've sought out accountability groups and guys in the church, but I mean, I've always kind of found a way around it. When I felt like I needed the porn, or I needed to look at it, whatever, Crystal wasn't really around. It wasn't available. You know, and this is our fourth kid, dude. Her body's changing and whatnot, and it's just one of those deals where, you know, it's been busy and stressful at work. I mean, I don't really want to make excuses for it, but you know,
his Heath Lambert's face was like, yeah. Oh, man, keep it coming. This is really dumb. Anyway.
Gosh.
What is it?
just went back to the porn.
So this has just been a regular part of your life. Maybe there's been times when it's been more or less, but this has just been a regular part of your life for 20 years?
Yeah, just about. I mean, I'm 37, so, 22 years.
Okay. What about your sexual relationship with your wife? You said she's not as available now as she was.
Yeah.
Have you guys had a good sexual relationship?
Well, yeah, I mean, like when I think about it, yeah. I mean, I guess generally I'm satisfied sexually with her, but like I said, you know, I mean, after 3 kids, you know, her body changes, and you know, I'm getting older too and whatnot, but and I understand that, you know, I've put on weight, but you know, it's like there are things that you know, I don't ever ask her to like act out the porn scenes or whatever. I don't ever ask her to do that, but you know, there are things that I'd like for us to do that she's just not. She's just not like, I guess, as willing to do. You know, and she gets tired really easily and just goes to bed like so early.
Before you're ready to go to bed.
Yeah. You know, I usually go to bed around 11 o'clock or so. She's in bed like right after the kids go to bed at 8:30, 9. And I understand she's exhausted. You know, she's taking care of the kids and whatnot, and she's pregnant and things, so I get it.
Yeah. So it sounds like life's busy, life has changed, and it also sounds like maybe you're not as content anymore with your wife's appearance as you were at one time.
Yeah, now don't get me wrong, Heath. Dude, I mean, my wife's beautiful. I love my wife. She's fantastic. I mean, she's gorgeous. But yeah, you know, I mean, life moves on, right? You get older. That's just the way it is. I mean, you understand. You know, your wife gets older, her body changes and whatnot. And
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
Message doesn't mean I don't love her.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what about other areas of sexual sin in your life? I'm not trying to offend. I just don't know.
That's good. He doesn't even deal with that. Oh, come on, man, you get it. Doesn't even deal with it. It's good. That's not like, yeah, whatever. He's like, sure, of course, yeah. My wife's, she's had 4 kids. Her body's changed a little bit, but not a lot. What? I know. Yeah, he hasn't had any kids, and he's a little overweight. Got that belly.
Used to wearing polos and cargo shorts.
Yeah.
Well, has there been any other sexual sins in your life since you've been married?
Now, I mean, are you asking if I committed adultery?
Well, that would be one example.
No.
Yeah,
No, I've never once. I would never commit adultery against my wife.
Have you had relationships with women that are maybe inappropriate or pushing the line?
Well, I mean, I work construction, so there's not a lot of women around the job sites, right? I mean, usually it's me and the dudes with the hard hats on, and they're all stinky and stuff. So there's nothing sexually that goes on at work. I mean, I will tell you that, you know, just like any construction site, right? I mean, guys are looking at porn all the time on their computers, so it's kind of hard to get away from it. You know, you go into the construction trailer, it's over break.
Okay.
And what are they going to do? Sit there and talk about their lives? No, we talk about cars and porn.
Okay. And tell me what your wife knows about this problem. The other day, was that the first time she's known anything about it?
No, I mean, she knew before we were married, and then, like, she's caught me off and on throughout our marriage, looking at porn.
She's caught you, so you've never brought up that this is a struggle?
No.
Okay.
No, she's caught me off and on. We fought, you know.
Again, what's when you hear that he was caught but never confessed? What are you thinking at that point? No repentance. And it's been multiple times that he's been caught. And then he said, "My wife knew before we were married." That's bad.
Kind of just seems frustrated. Like, she caught me multiple times.
Yeah, it's good.
Annoying.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, he seems kind of frustrated, like, oh man, like, I have to do this again.
The thought is she needs to be counseling too.
Yeah, she will come in.
Confess to.
Yeah, she will be part of the counseling later. Yep, she definitely needs to be part of the counseling because she's threatening to leave, which she shouldn't do. Even though it's bad, she shouldn't threaten to leave. But also, like when I counsel couples who are engaged, I ask them very frequently about their purity. I ask the guys about their sexual struggles and if they're looking at pornography. And if they are, I counsel them to hold off on the engagement. Because if you're looking at pornography, you're not ready to be married. Neither side. You know, if the woman is watching 50 Shades of Grey and reading those stupid books, she's not ready to be married either. Right? So there's a huge disconnect there, and you know, it's for some reason it's expected by a lot of people, and I don't understand it. You know, it should never be a part of the engagement process. It should never be part of the marriage. There was one time I counseled a couple, and this was going on with the guy, and I wasn't as firm as I should have been, and it caused a problem later in my marriage. A year or so in, it caused a bigger issue. I should have been more firm prior to the wedding date. By the grace of God, they're doing well now. But don't think, oh, who is in the church? It's not anybody in the church, but it's a very, very common issue in engagements. It should not be an issue. JB?
Just curious, so do the girls think the guys will change once?
Yeah. Oftentimes
women always think they can change.
The women think my husband will stop this once, and the guys will think I'll stop this once I can have sex. No, you won't.
I'm just thinking on the woman's part.
Yeah, she'll think he'll change.
Yeah.
Or she doesn't understand how big of an issue it really is.
Then I go and I get accountability at church and whatnot, and then maybe I talk to somebody, but then it kind of smooths out, and I don't look at porn for a little bit, and then I just start in again.
Okay, so you guys have been married for 12 years.
Yeah.
Are we talking this has happened 12 times, 5 times?
I'd say probably 10 times or so over the last 12 years.
So this is a pretty regular thing in your marriage.
I mean, maybe once a year, if you call that regular.
Okay.
I mean, once a year, that's not that big of a deal.
Well, do you make a big deal when it's your wedding anniversary?
Yeah.
Dang. Good
I
old
would just
Heath.
pick up his chair and
Good
toss
old.
him over the fence.
This is like where the Wrestling Pastor Twitter comes in handy.
Yes.
Again, if you don't follow Wrestling Pastor on Twitter, you need to follow Wrestling
Oh,
Pastor.
so good.
I mean, I take her out to somewhere nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
I treat her well.
Yeah, so if your anniversary is a regular thing in your marriage and this is happening about as frequently as that's
Yeah, I
pretty
don't
big
know,
deal.
dude. I mean, that seems kind of like an unfair characterization.
Okay, all right. Well, 10 times though.
Yeah, 10 times.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not that. I mean, I know guys who they have it out there with their wives all the time about porn and whatnot.
Why don't one thing that I don't know about is how you came to know Christ. What was your story of conversion like?
Okay.
Boom.
He's trying to build him to tell him, yeah, that's not that much. And so he just
Yeah.
He's so good.
So this is one reason why Heath Lambert's the executive director, and why he became the executive director of the best counseling organization in the world. And he's young. He's a young guy. He's like 40. Again, the guy's trying to make this issue very minor. It's not a big deal. Come on, man. Heath Lambert, this is, okay, at this point, he's going to transition into his testimony, the gospel, which is going to help show this guy if he's saved or not.
This guy's a really good actor.
He's
Yeah.
driving me nuts.
I know.
Hey, dude. Hey.
Wait, you know
listen,
him?
No, that's what I know. I know he's really good. No, I don't know this guy. He's somewhere in San Diego area. All these are filmed down in.
Yeah. Well, he's not the guy who's getting counted.
Well, I guess this is filmed down in the San Diego area, where ibcd.org is.
Too good.
I think this is actually a good place to stop because it's a good transition that if we get too much farther into it, like we're just gonna have to watch the whole thing, and it's already 8:30. I know, yeah, you can, you can, I mean, unfortunately you have to buy these, but you can go to the website, ibcd.org, and buy them if you wanted to, but that's a lot of money. This is one of my favorite series, even though the 3 videos, because of how he handles it, because of the nature of the issue. That's very, very common. And one that we all will interact with way more than the bipolar stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Way more. Way more than medical stuff. We will all, whether we're formal counseling or not, like I said yesterday in the sermon, it doesn't matter if we're formal counseling or not. We're counseling, we're discipling. We will counsel men and women through issues of pornography and sexual sin. If you don't think that women struggle with sexual sin, then we are deceiving ourselves. They do. It just looks differently than guys. So anyway, let's stop there. We'll finish this up, Lord willing, next week. We might keep pausing like this every 30 seconds because the guy says something that's stupid every 30 seconds. And then we'll keep going from there. Let me pray. Again, Father, thank you for this time, privilege to be able to watch these videos of men who have gone before us and who are godly and wise in their counsel and biblical. May we learn from how they respond and the counsel they give, how they react. May we be gracious and patient like these men are. May we learn from these times and be greatly equipped to help people around us who are struggling with similar issues or struggles that are maybe seemingly insignificant but are still yet battles in their hearts. And may we come alongside them and disciple them to greater and greater Christ-likeness, we pray. Amen.
Okay. Thanks, Matt.